Oh, I don't love making these difficult for myself, do I? Look, I love this film. The Prince of Egypt is a great film. Of course it is. Everyone knows it is. The thing about The Prince of Egypt is that the voice cast included Val Kilmer and Ralph Fiennes. And then when they did Exodus Gods and Kings, which was something, it was something resembling a live action version of it, they had Christian Bale as the lead. I wanted to cast this properly if I was going to do it, and that is insanely difficult because we just have to accept the fact that there aren't a lot of well-known Egyptian actors out there. No. And a lot of the ones there are, when you look up Egyptian actors, are dead or don't really speak English, as far as I can tell, or don't star in big Hollywood films or any Hollywood, American, British films. So it was difficult for me finding all known quantities that I had seen in something before. I just about managed it, but it is tricky. Moses is a complicated character. You know, he's got that whole burden of God telling him that he's got to do all of this stuff, and it's a yeah, but he's a good guy. You know, he's a Hebrew that was brought up by the Pharaoh as a not Hebrew, as ruling over the Hebrews, and then he finds out, oops, it is, he's, look at what I am. I thought it would be nicer because he is a young man. As much as it feels like, oh, he's grown up by the time he goes back, he was probably only maybe 18 when he left. So you need someone who can play the 18-year-old Moses and then play an older version, but still I would be completely fine with the idea of him being 30 by the time he comes back. If even, honestly. I'm going to cast Mena Massoud. Yes, that's right. What am I doing? I'm casting Aladdin. Yeah, no, I'm casting the 2019 Aladdin. Frankly, it just works because, again, there's singing involved. He's this unassuming kind of leading character. Moses is not someone strutting around. Well, he kind of is at the start, but Aladdin at the start of his film as well. As much as he becomes the prince at the end of the film, at the start of the film, he comes off cocky, you know, Prince Ali and all of that. And then he kind of loses some of that as the film goes on. As does Moses after he kind of leaves and goes on his journey and almost dies, that kind of thing. It humbles a man. Mena Massoud is great, and I haven't seen him in a huge amount other than Aladdin, and I don't really know why. I feel like there's a lot of other great roles out there he could do really well. This is definitely one of them. And as much as it's a lot of other characters that sing more than Moses does a lot of the time, I feel like you can change it up, you can add in songs, or you can just keep it as it is and just let him really nail those parts he's got to do. But I think it'd be great. Zipporah is his wife. And this is one of the first times where I had to really think outside of the box here, okay? Because there were a few Egyptian actresses that I found, and I thought, okay, well, yes, some of them could work. I don't know them that well, though. I haven't seen them in much. I can't swear to it that they would work. What I thought was, interestingly, when Moses goes on his journey, and he finds this other place, Midian or something it's called. That's not in Egypt. The ancient place, Midian, is in what is now Saudi Arabia. But it got me thinking because those are Hebrews that he finds. And it's the Israelites he's leading out of Egypt, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm saying something horribly offensive here. I'm really trying not to, but I thought it would be okay to go as far afield as casting Israeli actors for some of the Hebrew roles. So for his wife, I was okay with the idea of casting Odeya Rush. Now, Odeya Rush seems young for this role, but that is only because she's still playing teenage roles, despite being about 25 now. And Mena Massoud he's what, about 30-ish? And I liked the idea of casting someone, yeah, obviously at that time he would have been marrying younger than himself, probably, really. And she comes off as, while being quite worldly in a lot of roles, Odeya Rush, like in Goosebumps, her role, she'd been around a long time where she was a fictional book character. It was a weird film. she's really good in everything I've seen her in. I really like her, and I feel like she's got a great, experienced presence on screen when she comes onto it, which is very helpful for a role where she would be younger than him, marrying him, but she is giving this great advice, and she is this great mother, and is just a fantastic character. So as much as she is young to be casting, and obviously, as with anything, even when they did Aladdin, they cast Naomi Scott as Jasmine, there was controversy. There's always going to be controversy over exactly what the racial and ancestral qualities of each actor are in something like this. That's just unfortunately true. But I feel like it's acceptable there without being too controversial. And I feel like she is great. And I'm pretty sure she can sing. But to be honest, I mean, the original Prince of Egypt, they just had people voicing, like dubbing over their voices to begin with. So it's probably fine. Next is Jethro. Jethro is then her father, Zipporah's father. And he's this happy, smiley guy. He's just the leader of this tribe. He's just chill. He's just a super chill dude that likes to sing about heaven and stuff. It's a good song. It is a good song. All of the songs in this are bangers. There's so many good ones. When You Believe gets all the attention, but goddamn, the Plague song and Look Through Heaven's Eyes. Oh, there's so many good songs here. So, I want to cast Oded Fehr. And I cast Oded Fehr as in my Aladdin fan cast recently as Jafar. This is a very different role, but Oded Fehr is great. He's got a great smile on him. He's this, at this stage, older guy. He's in his mid-50s, I think, now. And he is fantastic when I see him around. And he can do all kinds of roles. And he was in the Mummy Brendan Fraser films. And if you put that hair back on him, I could definitely now see him looking a little bit older like that as Jethro. It could definitely work. And I don't know if he could sing again. That's not one that I'm entirely sure about. But to be honest, you can get away with anything. And I imagine, I hate to say it, but if it was anything like any of the Disney live-action adaptations, there'd be less singing, and it would be more constricted, not as fun and bouncy, and therefore it's easier to pick up even if you're not a hugely great singer, I think, That's a shame in some ways. But anyway, let's move on. Miriam is another Hebrew character. Yeah, that's right. See, Oded Fehr, as much as he plays an Egyptian in some roles, is Israeli born. And Miriam, yeah, older sister, so it's okay to cast someone in their 30s. Right, sure, in their 30s, Egyptian or possibly Israeli. I see, interesting. Maybe a big star. Be good to, who would you get as a big star? Israeli actress in her 30s. Oh, what? Gal Gadot. Oh, you should. That's cheeky. It's pretty cheeky. But it just makes sense, as much as it is basic casting, don't get me wrong, absolutely is. It's one that's just easy to do, because Gal Gadot playing that role that's this older sister she's infuriated at Moses when he's strutting around as a prince because she's forgotten his people and how dare he, and she's very upset about it. I can see her doing that. She is tall and she is an intimidating, strong presence, which is definitely what Miriam feels like. I think she's meant to be older than Moses, yeah, for sure. And she's about 5 years or so older than Mena Massoud. Could she get away with being blood related to him? It's cheeky. But honestly, I think it's always going to be. I think it is always going to be, no matter who you cast. And there were Egyptian actress options. There was no one I knew. There was no one that I had ever seen in anything major. So it's very difficult to know the line to tread here. I don't like just exclusively casting big mainstream actors, but sometimes it's just what you got to go for when the other options are complete unknowns to you. You just gotta go for what you know sometimes, And Gal Gadot would be brilliant there. She'd be fantastic. Her and Odeya Rush. I love that pair singing When You Believe. Don't know if Gal Gadot could sing either. What am I doing here? Normally I'm so good at casting big singers. Anyway, Aaron is then the more comedic relief character who's a little bit more like, Miriam, God, please calm down. Dear Lord, what are you doing? He is Moses' biological brother. I feel like it's super memey at this point to cast Rami Youssef, because I fan cast him as Aladdin, and Mena Massoud, whose brother he'd be playing, did play Aladdin. Really come full circle, huh? But it would be good because he's in his show, Rami, which is semi-autobiographical. It's a great show if you haven't seen it. He's so funny. And that is, Aaron is as close as you've got here to a comedic relief character. Jethro was kind of pretty funny as well, but like, yeah, no, looking at the cast list, it's Aaron is the closest thing to comedic relief. And he is he's an uncertain and he's a worried kind of guy, but he is also very funny, and I think leaning more into that side of the character would do better things for him as a character, for sure. Pharaoh Seti is another one. They cast Patrick Stewart. That's great, but yeah. Anyway, so that's not Egyptian, but some of these guys we're casting aren't, and indeed this one I'm casting isn't either. But there is a level to which I found it acceptable to cast people who weren't strictly Egyptian, you know? And you're always going to have to deal with that level because, let's face it, the level of diversity I've used in casting this is probably not as good as they would do if they cast the Prince of Egypt live action right then now today in Hollywood. So, yeah. I'm going to cast Alexander Siddig as the Pharaoh because he's a great experienced presence at doing this sort of role. If you ever saw the show Atlantis, he was the king in that, and he was great. And he's had so many roles in Deep Space Nine, and in so many big TV roles he's done. Game of Thrones. There's such an authority presence there every time he's on screen, and there's so many very big authority roles he's done in Game of Thrones and in Atlantis, and going on. So it'd be interesting to see him take on something like this. He is around the right age, I think. He's in his 50s, so that's an easy role for the Pharaoh, who isn't around when the boys are grown up. But when they are boys, when they're about 10, that's his scenes. So, I mean, that is probably, when he's in his 50s, that's acceptable. And he does just look very regal, come off like that. And he is from... It's not coming back to me. I almost want to say Sudan. It's somewhere close enough that I kind of went, alright, it's not perfect, but he is very good for the role, I think. So I'm gonna roll with it. And finally, Ramesses. The cheeky boy. It's the cheeky boy. It's like the fox and the hound. Yeah, Copper grows up and now he's a bastard. What are you going to do? Ramesses, he grows up and now he's a bastard. And he wants to keep all these slaves. Cheeky. Very cheeky. Yeah, George Washington had slaves, Don't erase history. So, I'm going to cast Rami Malek. The most famous Egyptian actor there is. This is true. However, this role where he can, for sure, play both this younger and older version of the role. I think he can get away with that. Hell, he just did it for Freddie Mercury. And speaking of all these people that we don't know if they can sing, he didn't sing the Freddie Mercury role in Bohemian Rhapsody. It's very modern. That worked very well in spite of that. So I'm not that worried about casting strictly amazing singers for this one, But Rami Malek as the Pharaoh, as this turning villainous character. I've always thought he'd be a great villain. I think we're about to find out just how good a villain he is later this year in No Time to Die as a Bond villain. Oh, the pinnacle of villaining. And I just love him for it. I think this role would be so good because he does, when he puts on that like kind of face, you're terrified. And that's exactly what it'd be kind of like. It'd be kind of like, no, I won't let these children go. No, all of the Hebrews are mine. And then plagues hit him and he's all like, I think he'd be fantastic at that. I think it'd be so good for it. And he is strictly Egyptian, so nailed that one as much as a lot of these other ones are Israeli, Sudanese, or whatever else in between. But literally, guys, unless you're casting a cast of unknowns who you've never seen in anything before, you're going to run into some of these problems all the time. And you can bag on me for it in the comments. You can admit that if they cast it in Hollywood today, this is way more diverse than they would cast it. Or you could just dislike the video and throw up a strop, or whatever you want. Or you can subscribe. That is all for this one, folks. There are so many fan casts to do on the channel. There are so many fan casts on the channel. I marked this as about 105. This is about the 105th fancast we got on the channel, so there are so many down there. You can check out one below, probably. And you can click the big red button. I know it's a scary big red button, but you can click the big red button. That's subscribe. Go ahead and do it. And if you've already done it, don't click it again. That would unsubscribe you. Don't do that.